Hey everyone, this is Yjang, and I wanted to start off the podcast by just saying that this goes over some very heavy topics that I was going through earlier this January and talking about my experience with Jeff and his route through self-discovery. So I didn't really think it would be a great episode to release it with some music, and I believe it would distort the meaning of what we're talking about. So, without further ado, here is episode 2 of season 3 of the Tangent Podcast. Thank you for listening.
Okay.
Oh.
Hello, world. Welcome back to the Tangent Podcast. This will hopefully be posted in February. Recorded on February 5th of the year 2020 AD. Or CE, whatever you call it nowadays. Anyhow.
Are you going to call it the common era?
Yeah, whatever. They're the same thing. Who cares? Except Kurgzer's out on YouTube who calls this the year like 12,000 something. Which is
because of human.
Because it's like the human era, HE. But anyhow, welcome back to Tangent Podcast. We might talk about it in a minute. But thanks for tuning in again. It's been a little while. The last episode you heard was actually part of the episode we recorded in December. So we haven't recorded an episode in about like 2 months. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
So we have a lot to talk about.
It's been a while.
A lot has happened, especially today. All that. So, what do you want to jump into first?
I guess I want to just get out of the way because I guess it was the main reason I kind of was like, yeah, I should probably start talking to the podcast. And it's like getting the sappy stuff out the way first.
That's fine.
I'll admit, I would say for the past couple of days, I've been really feeling like I won't say depressed, but I will say it was definitely a bout of sadness, and it was just kind of the sadness that was through stress. I believe that was the main thing. For a while I've been feeling kind of sad lately, and it just came through a lot of like in a sense it was through stress. Like this week how should I say, you know that feeling you get when you see like something's about to happen, like a really big event, or like a lot of things are just coming at you in the distance, like you just know in your calendar that there's just way too many things that are about to pop up. And I'm like, okay, I guess I gotta get like myself battle ready. But during this time, I also was just kind of reevaluating like the end of January. So it was kind of a rough time to try to evaluate, but it was necessary. And I felt, in the sense, kind of a sense of sadness because I was reflecting on my mission throughout the year was to try to become more of a master of myself and feel a bit more, I would say, control over me as a person. And I just been at the same point where I was listening back to some of the episodes that we recorded. And at one time I was going through just doing an audit of my personality. And I was taking like a personality quiz. And when I was looking through the results, the first thing I said about myself was, God, I'm so fucking boring. I suck. Because I was looking at the stuff and it just said like really good at handling monotonous tasks, and I would really be handy in these like fields that were typically very traditional. There were just a lot of things that I knew were true, but kind of in a very blunt way about myself. But at the same time, the fact that I just immediately went to, God, I'm boring, I suck, was troubling for me. And I was really worried, like, what I've been living for, like, a while. Like, do I feel comfortable in my own life? And I know, in a sense, that I just haven't lately. Like, I think you and I both know this, and the listeners probably have heard me talk this to death by now. But like, because of my busy schedule, I've done a lot of things that I had to do, but I haven't done a lot of things that I felt like I wanted to do. And on top of that, the person that I am, I'm very, how should I say, in the sense of the word of, to take from the words of Shrek, I'm like an onion that has layers. Layers.
Onions have layers.
Donkey. But, so in that case, I was just kind of unpeeling or unwrapping those layers. And I noticed that why are they there in the first place? And I just think back to the times when I was younger where I actually needed those layers, because the moments I tried to become, like, I was my normal self when I was younger, when I was just really opening and welcoming, I got attacked by that. And even earlier last year and the year before, I was like vulnerable to that, because I would give out money to strangers and they would take in, like, even though they would say do one thing and whatever, I would trust people to do the right thing in, like, in terms of business or in terms of just doing right things by me, and I got, the short end of the stick for that. And in the past, I've, I gone through my fair share of bullying and gone through, like, I was in a fight with every person from 3rd grade up until you were the last person I got into a fight with, Jeff.
We got in a fight?
Well, I mean, we technically got.
Oh, with the plank of wood in freshman year?
Yeah, you're the last
Yeah.
person I've been in a fight with, and now you're my friend.
You're so bad, you just stop from there.
You know what you are, man? You're like the character in anime who beats up people and then he tries to make friends. Like, what?
Yeah.
You're Goku.
Yeah. Or like Josuke from Part 4. It's like, I'm about to beat the shit out of you.
Yeah.
You want to go for a milkshake sometime?
Yeah, exactly. So, is it because of that? I was like, oh, shoot, I have these layers for a reason, or I feel very stonewalled. And it not only has it helped me, like, defend myself from some really rotten people, but it also stopped me from being very, I would say, authentic and vulnerable to myself. And in the past, I mentioned in the podcast about when I was in, like, last summer, when I was talking about being vulnerable and living more authentically because of my art teacher that I learned from. And I just noticed that it stems, or I was talking to a person, I just realized that it stems not just because of my personality, but just because of the things I've been through. And because of that, I was just kind of felt really angry or frustrated with myself, thinking like, shoot, I wanted to be a bit more interesting, or I wanted to be a bit more honest. And in some way I was envying you, Jeff, because you gone through something very similar like I have. And yet today you can say you're more honest about what you do, the things you do, or at the very least, when I see you live by you and you're not ashamed about that. So I was kind of like wanted to hear more about it in a sense, because I feel like maybe I heard about how great it was. I hear like the benefits from you, but I kind of want to know like what got you to the point where you just accepted yourself or really just grew to like yourself.
Well, it's a really, really long process. And honestly, I know it's a cliche to say, but the first step is the hardest one to take, honestly. Because especially for people like me and you, we had a lot of stuff going through our lives, a lot of self-esteem issues, and people not liking us when we're younger. Even nowadays, people still. But it's gotten better, I think, for both of us. I definitely make friends a lot faster nowadays because I'm just more confident about who I am. But I would say it really started, I don't know, like sophomore or junior year of high school, when I just realized I'm not happy with my life. Like, I've got all the stuff in my life. I've got people around me. I'm not, hungry. I've got shelter. I've got everything I could want, and yet I'm not happy. And it's because I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I didn't feel like my life had a purpose. I felt like I was just coasting through because I had to, and that any people I interacted with were just talking to me because they were pitying me, or even if I did hang out with them, I didn't belong. An example was, I think it was in sophomore or junior year, I met these guys who I sat with at lunch at high school. I called them the Asian squad because they were all from the Philippines or Thailand, or that all from Asia. I was their token white guy. Was our joke.
What a reversal!
But yeah, but they would keep me around because sometimes we'd have some dumbass come over and try to showboat at him and be big, and I was taller than anyone who came over, so I just got up and was like, no, and they'd walk off. But even then, I felt like I'm just being used. They don't actually like me. These people don't know me. Now, I didn't know a few. It might have been true for a few of them. There were like 8 guys, but I got to know a few of them, and one of them, I still keep in contact with today. And he's a good guy. He's really depressed. I'm trying to help him through it, but he's a tough case. But eventually in senior year, I drifted away from those guys just because I felt like they didn't know me, they didn't like me, and I didn't feel like I should be, because I actually hated myself at that point. And then when I got to my deepest depths, when I really contemplated, like, should I even be on this earth anymore? Like, should I be alive? And those thoughts just wouldn't leave me, no matter how much I tried to drown them out with games, books, or anything else. I essentially did think of I did think about it, and I made plans kind of how to do it. But then I realized, just through, I don't know, just experiencing life, just talking to people and looking up at the sky and nature, and there was really a mantra that I kept to myself for years. I was growing up. I think I mentioned it before, but it's really something that kept me going. It's the sun will rise. It's something I said over and over to myself. It essentially means that time will go on. Things will get better, or maybe get better, but time doesn't end today. Today's not the end of the world. You still have time to move on. And I thought that and said, I can make a difference in my life. I can change. It's going to be hard, but I've got to change. Not just for me, but for everyone I know, for everyone who I love and who loves me. Even people that I meet on the street, I could still impact their lives somehow, some way. And leaving this world so soon wouldn't help anybody. It would only make me feel better in the moment, and then nothing. So really, it came out of that pit of despair and that first step I took to try and be different. As you know, when you met me in freshman year, I had a lot of anger problems. I really didn't know how to handle my emotions because I was trying to get rid of them. I thought being a soulless husk, an automaton, I thought being a robot was better than being human, because I could do things without having to feel. I could be efficient. I wouldn't have to sleep or eat or be sad or angry. And I was okay with losing joy and happiness because it was a worthy trade-off to not be hurt. I built up so many layers on that onion that I couldn't even see the core anymore. Nothing could get in. It couldn't be peeled. The only way to peel it was from the inside out. And that really, it's not a perfect analogy, but it really got to me, And eventually I started to understand that my emotions are part of me. My anger and my sadness and my guilt and my happiness are all equal parts of me. They're not, and for a while, you can go back to like episode 3, where I try to categorize them and put them in little boxes where I can put them away, like compartmentalize them. And that works for a little while, but you start to realize these aren't separate people. These aren't separate entities. They're all just part of the greater whole of me. And I started to realize that, and what really got me to feel, I was having an argument with my brother. I don't know what about. I think I had blown up at him again. My emotions had gone wild and I'd said something hurtful. And I still feel guilty about those things, but I'm learning to forgive myself for that, because he has already. But I'd said something hurtful to him, and we had gotten in a fight while I was driving around with him. And for once, I realized that my mind isn't split into a good and bad half. It's not that I have my good side, which is, hardworking, kind, I think a loyal friend, intelligent, and a bad side, which is angry, depressed, lazy. They're both one, and I was feeling both of them at that same time. I was angry, and yet I was feeling sad, and I was feeling like I'm hurting a person very close to me, and it didn't feel separate. I thought I would shift into this other personality, this shadow version of myself. But really, that's just me. It's just a way that I used to cope with my own feelings. And once I realized that, all of the stress and everything left my mind, and I felt as one. I felt truly free in my mind. There was no fog anymore. It was crystal clear. It was it's like I was seeing the world through new eyes. It was like I was being born again almost. And I know that might sound hyperbolic, but it's how it felt to me. And this was about 6 months ago, maybe 9 months ago. I don't remember the exact time. But it had been a long road. It had been about a year and a half, 2 years since I had started trying to change. And at that point, I felt like I really had. Because after that, I haven't really gotten into many fights with him. I've controlled my emotions. And it's not like a chain. I used to take my emotions. I used to chain them up in the back of my mind to try to hold them back. And eventually I'd blow up from stress. I'd get angry. I would just have a bout of depression, Now I express them healthily. I talk to people. I talk to my friends. I drive around and sing sad songs and cry sometimes because I'm stressed as hell about exams or something. Or if I get a 72 on a group project that I put a lot of work into, then sometimes I just come home and punch the punching bag a little bit because I need to get my anger out. But really, it's really hard to give advice for this thing because it's a very personal journey. The only part I can help you with is really the beginning and understanding. The first step is understanding that you want to change. And that's the hardest one because people love to be stuck in their ways. We love to just do the same thing day in and day out because it's stable and easy. But trying to change yourself as a person is hard. But you can do it.
Because the thing is, what I'm hearing you is the stuff I've been feeling, these past few months. In the winter, I was kind of I probably have them still right here. But I was trying to, draw out exactly those parts of me. Yeah, right here. Okay. I might just show.
So you're at the compartmentalized stage.
Yeah. I try compartmentalizing. There's parts of me, the parts that were very, I would say, I'll read eccentric. It out. There was one recently, this whole week, I basically try to take on the persona or the person that everyone calls me, you're such an old man, Yjang, or you dress or act like an old person. And then one time, this Sunday, I just fuck it. I'll just be the old man. I'll just let him take over and just
put a big old pea coat on and get a cane.
No, yeah. But that's the thing. I dressed up so much that people's like, "Oh, Yjang, you look like an old man. You look so clean." It's yeah. It's man, what's up, pops? And people are just they just saw that part of me come out. And I say that because I was essentially just relinquishing this person you're talking to from the driving seat and just letting that part of me give
That's exactly how it felt. Yeah, it feels like you're sitting in the back of your brain watching somebody else take the reins.
Right.
It's exactly how it feels with that compartmentalized, identity. Because I would go, fuck, I'm feeling really bad right now. Okay, let me just let my anger take the reins. I'm gonna go have some R&R in the back of the brain, and he'll just go wild for a little while. Or I'd go, ooh, we got a big test coming up. Let me put somebody who's more courageous in the front. And they go, all right, let's go.
Yeah,
and they'd get an A in the test. Yeah.
It feels like Link, the Four Swords game, where in a sense, I just try to when I feel anxious, I would just let the part of me that when people say, Yjang, you're so crazy, or that's so weird, I just let that part just have fun, take risks.
Or it's like a mask in Majora's Mask. It's okay, put on the Goron mask where you gotta go fast, or that sort of thing.
Yeah. So, and in the past, even then, I just kind of let these layers go, but I know they're not me. And then
they're not gone. Yeah,
they're not gone. And on top of that, it's not even that I really lived my life through them. They're just convenient tools. But the biggest thing is just I feel so scared in a sense to be myself many times that there's many times where I want to just listen to my music and just dance in the middle of the road while people are just not the road, but in the walkway that people are going to their class, because I'm loving my album. But I am so afraid because I remember very clearly that the times I tried to be myself or really dance and get into it, I remember I remember getting called out for that, saying, "Look at you, little damn boy! Like, look at you dancing, little boy," or something like that, and just being made fun of. And I remember getting too close to people, and letting myself be vulnerable, and then getting that smash the shit out of me. Mm-hmm. And in a sense, I know these are just like defense mechanisms, just to like protect myself, and I know I'll let these personas go out so that way I don't have to feel like I'm emotionally investing. But it's exhausting, and I at the same time I feel not even so much exhausted, but I feel like fake. A slave to my mind and my body. Like, I don't feel in control. And the person that like I really am, I enjoy having control over myself, or at least my environment, which is the reason why recently in the Discord I just put up like cleaning my room. And I say that because, like, I'm not trying to say I'm like Jordan Peterson's like child or anything, because I haven't read his book. I just know this is something that he talks about. So, but to the people who know about him, like, I cleaned my room and I just got everything out that I didn't really care about. Went minimalism in a sense. And just doing that, every time I came back home, or came back from a rough day, or just talking to people or dealing with people, I would come home and see this room immaculate, and I could put on an album, listen to it through my speaker, and just lay down and just get immersed and not think about anything for like an hour or so. And it felt relieving, because this was my own space that I felt like I could be myself. The windows are covered with black curtains. My microphone of my phone is off. I turned off everything. This is just my space, and I felt safe in it. So, but I can't just feel stuck in these walls. And
you can't trap yourself there.
Yeah, because it's a prison I'm setting for myself. Like, it's not even that I'm trying to protect myself like a shield of armor. Well, I've been told it's kind of like that, how I'm doing, but this armor is suffocating. There's like spikes, or not even spikes, it's suffocating me than it is helping
because
me.
It's not letting anything else in.
Right.
You like an example. You said how, it hurts to let people in, but like, really, if you don't let anyone in, you won't be hurt, but you won't ever feel joy as well. You won't ever feel true happiness, because really a human by themselves can't get that. I think in the end, the love and happiness you get from other people is worth the pain.
On top of that, I feel guilty. Like, I'd say the biggest thing that I've been trying to do is making sure I put enough emotional energy into myself. Like, I'm trying not to do things I'm just not emotionally prepared for, or give myself that permission to have the energy for. Because, and I feel like I just feel like I'm not enough so many times. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, I don't feel like I'm enough for another person, because I just don't feel like I'm not in control of myself. How can I even give you something that I don't even have? Or how can I say I like you if I don't even really like myself? And it feels in a sense like I'm guilty, because in a sense I'm lying, or I'm just not being true to me. So how can I be true to other people? And furthermore, when I say like I don't feel good enough, it kind of just compounds, because not being honest to me and just closing myself up. But I also have this expectation on myself to do so many fucking things. Like, I expect myself to somehow make more money than my family. I expect myself to pay my college, do all of this shit. And I never give myself the credit to just look on the walls and just think of all the shit I've accomplished already. And I'm not trying to like coast it. I can't even say like I'm the person that coasts off their success so much, because I don't give myself that much credit to begin with. So I guess maybe it's just because I feel so, I would say, worried that if I just slip up, everything goes crashing down, that I just like don't give myself a break, or I don't give myself that option to be imperfect, or just not even imperfect, but just to say like the things I think are imperfect are just me. And it's not like I'm not trying to improve it, but I don't even say that I'm good enough because I just focus on that so much. And I know everyone does that. Like, it's the same thing in a sense how I say before, like, a lot of people don't really care about you, they just care about themselves. Rarely do people really care about other people's well-being.
I think that's kind of true, but once you get to know people, I think people can be very empathetic. And I feel like really what you're feeling right now is you're putting on so many different faces at once, you don't feel like there is a real you. You feel like a shapeshifter. You're going between all these different forms, and what is your original? Who are you? You know?
And not even that, but I just feel like I feel obligated to, you know? Like, I feel obligated
because it's what people expect of you.
Or at the very least, I don't want to let them down because I either feel like in debt to them or I feel like they mean so much to me. I don't want to, ruin or be the reason why everything falls apart. So, but at the same time, I know it's just like a ticking time bomb where the next time I'm just going to explode. And now it's not exploding through anger as much. It does happen, but when I see, I beat myself up even more for it. It's more of like an explosion of like sadness or depression that comes out, which is better. Like I will in my opinion, slightly, I would say
it's better for other people, but it's much worse for you.
Yeah, it's more work for me. Like,
and that can really develop what I had for a few years, which was like a almost martyr complex, where it's like I'm suffering so they don't have to, and like that was not a good way to live. But what was I gonna say? I forgot it. Damn it. Oh yes, one piece of advice I have for you, especially in the way you're doing it, is it's really hard advice, especially for you, is to be more selfish. You're very, I know you like choked on your coffee a little bit. I know it's hard to fathom, and it was for me too. It took me like 6 months to finally understand that, because I would have my brother come to me and be like, you don't have to do everything. You don't have to be there for everyone. And I'm like, no, I got to. I owe them so much. They helped me out so much. They're part of the reason I want to keep living. And he's like, you have to look out for you, because if you look out for you, is the only way you'll be able to look out for others the same way. Like you said, you can't really love other people until you love yourself. And I had to learn to understand that and be like, I've got to learn to accept who I am before I can ever hope to accept anyone else. And I had to do that by stop 100% trying to be so selfless all the time. Just trying to be like, no, I can't do that. I need to go do something for me instead. And it's hard. It's really hard. People say being selfish is easy, but I've been so conditioned my whole life to not be that it's difficult. But like for example, I do D&D, and sometimes I'll wake up in the morning on Saturday to do D&D, and I'm like, I don't feel like doing D&D today. I'm gonna cancel it. Well, before I'd been like, oh, they're all expecting so much, and then I'm just like, I want to lay in bed all day. Fuck it. It's selfish, yeah, but it makes me feel a lot better about myself and be like, I think I'm pretty cool. I'm kind of a dick sometimes, but that's just part of who I am, and I'm all right with that.
I mean,
it's hard advice to follow, but it's what I would give.
No, I mean,
don't go overboard with it. Of course.
I understand that, but yeah. I've been hearing this like there's this one podcast I listen to a lot from a different. It's like from a tech podcast network, but in one of their shows called Brain Science on the Changelog, they have this doctor named Mariel Reeps, I believe, and she was talking about like this idea of like an acronym called HALT, which is like hunger, anger, loneliness, and tiredness. And she said if you're in any of those states, just halt whatever you're doing, reassess, and if you just don't feel like you have the energy because you're in one of those states, fix those states, or cancel fix those states and cancel whatever you have to do until you can get to a place where you're better. And I feel like maybe that's just the thing, but I'll admit, like,
well, it's really all down to like I said, it's a very personal journey. You have to find what works for you, because what works for me probably won't work perfectly for you, because we're
right.
different people. I mean, we are similar in some ways. That's why I really relate to what you're saying. But in the end, my solutions won't work for you because our brains just don't work the same
Right. And
way.
but yeah, I mean, I felt like I had to ask you because I knew like you more than anyone else could probably like explain. And I admit the thing that just really is gonna like more than anything else than trying to like love myself and all that, but it's just the whole being selfish in your sense, like
Yeah, just you really have to learn to take time for yourself, because and especially for a introvert, it's really just getting time alone, and not just mindlessly doing something else to escape reality, but really like one thing I loved was just to put on my jacket. It was winter when I did this, but I just put on my jacket and my shoes and just put on my headphones and play some music. It really makes me think about stuff and just walk for a while. I just take a walk and just think.
oh
Um,
like the
there
lo-fi
was
SETI girls or SETI boys.
no. There was a song by Gorillaz that I really liked for this. It was called "Stop the Dance" by Gorillaz. It really made me just think about stuff while I was just walking around looking up at the sky. It's a really beautiful song, but it's really weird, and that's how I feel about me as well. I think I'm a really weird person, but I still think I'm a good person in the end. And that was really hard for me to realize, that I think I have worth. And that's something it was really hard, because for my whole life people would say like, no, you don't have worth. Or they'd go, Jeffrey, you're a genius. And I'm like, I don't know which is true, so I'm going to go with the bad one, because that's how the human mind works.
Yeah.
But then to realize, like, I think I'm actually a decent person. And I just had to unplug the dams in my brain that stopped me, because I thought if I thought that, I'd be consumed by pride, or I'd be too selfish. The major thing you have to get over in this sort of thing is your own fear. Your own fear of change, and of being a different person, and of being rejected, and of not being good enough, and of failing, really. And it's something that terrified me, and I can honestly tell it probably does for you too. The fear of all that holds you back and makes you live a life of misery, thinking it's the best you can get, because that's what your brain tells itself over and over, because it's how we're wired. We're wired to not take risks, but in the end, you just need to take that leap of faith, because either you'll end up somewhere great, or how much lower can you sink, really?
I guess the reason is like I remember Naval when I had the whole like I want to be tech entrepreneur thing, but I remember talking in a past podcast about him, and I remember him saying this thing called humans are not conditioned to take small cuts or bleed every single day. And in a sense, whenever I think about like really being honest, like how you've learned to become, it feels like I would be like self-inducing that kind of like cut, like I not in the sense of, or maybe not cutting myself in a sense, but chipping away my armor every single day, or every single layer every
That's
day.
how it is. Yeah, but like it's like if a man got cuts on his arm every day, but also every day they were healed back newer and stronger, because I feel like I said, life with no protection is pain. There's a lot of pain, there's a lot of hurt, there's a lot of things people do to you without even realizing. Or there's just, you think about the past and you have no protections up and it just overwhelms you. But also there's so many people who care for you, who love who you are, who like you for you. And you really find that out when you start being yourself. The people who stick by you, they're the people who really care, and their affection, I think, can heal any wound that someone else will put on me. I know it sounds sappy, but that's how I feel. Like if I'm ever down, I'll just I'll shoot you or John a text and just start hitting you guys up because it makes me feel nice to talk to my friends. Or I'll go and do something stupid with my brother, It just God. Part of me was just like, you sound like such an idiot right now. And I was like, yeah, I kind of do. But I'm all right with that, because it's how I feel.
This is our podcast.
And sometimes, emotions aren't logical. It's just my experience.
I think the other thing about it is just like, I want to talk about that whole emotion thing. Like in the past or even now, I really try to pride myself on the moments I can be on an emotional or very analytical. Even though I know that's not like my main thing, it's just a nice skill that I really enjoyed being able to do. But I know that whenever I do so, I really do try to separate myself and my worries in a third person. Like, I would see myself in the grand scheme of things. Like, I know in a sense, that helps for other people. Like, okay, well, let's look about the greater scheme of things, man. You're not dead. You're okay. There's still things you can do. Let's just keep on going. So when I think about my worries or like my concerns, I'm like, okay, you're not dead. You're not starving. You have a house or like you can live. You got to keep on going because you can't stop now. Like that's how I see it. And I say this because I just, in a sense, felt like what you said earlier. I never felt worthy, or I feel like in a sense sometimes that I know I put in work, but at the same time I feel like shit, there was a lot of luck that got me here. But I know in some way I created that luck, or that luck came through some work. But I'm always tempted to say in my end, like when it comes down to me, I say mostly it's luck. Then I'll say it's my own self, like, grit. Whereas for other people, I'll say, oh, it's definitely their grit, and like they work harder than I do. When maybe it's probably just as lucky as I am, or maybe even more. So that's where I see it.
And doing that thing where you're like, my concerns right now are nothing is really like, it's good, but it also really trivializes your own feelings. Like you can be really stressing about an exam, be like, it's just a piece of paper. It's just nothing. But that can really make you think, if you fail on it or whatever, you can just be like, my concerns don't matter because in the end I'm still alive. Which it can be a helpful mindset sometimes, but other times it makes you feel even worse. Because you can just go, okay, my concerns don't matter. So why do I care?
Or not even that. I just feel like in some ways it's like my concerns or my feelings right now don't matter. What matters is the result. Like I'm very much I've been told, and at least I'm able to hear from other voices, like I'm very much a results based person where if it gets the job done, then it doesn't matter the expense sometimes. If the right outcome happens, then it's worth it. But like in the sense how the ends justify the means, I apply that to myself more than I do to other people, and it comes at some cost. I would say the other thing besides cleaning was just developing recently a consistent enjoyment of going to the gym. Like not even the sense of health, because I can't even say like I feel healthier, but I would say that I felt a lot more when I'm at the gym. I feel a lot more alive, definitely. Like, and it comes with a lot of other things. The other thing that I also notice is like this is more on the topic of like some stuff I'm actually talking through with my counselor, but like I noticed that when I was stressed or when I was like really sad or angry, I go through like emotional eating like a lot of people and go through a binge. Now, for other people, they would like for bulimics, I would say, and I'm kind of like worried if I am becoming one. They would either like purge by throwing up, but that's so 80s, so people take pills or laxatives. And for my case, I would go on stints of like 48-hour fasts or like I would go to the gym and work even harder, and I would feel better about myself because I wouldn't feel like, well, you ruined all your progress or you ruined yourself, so you got to work for it to get back to just to normal. And it's a really, I know it's a harmful cycle.
It is.
And it's just kind of, I guess maybe this also stems from the same problem. So
I think it does. It's really like, I think you're trying to find a way to, you feel bad about stuff, so you try to find a way to almost punish yourself for that. You'll not eat for 2 days, or you'll push yourself to breaking at the gym because you feel like you're not good enough, or you did something wrong, or you're just afraid, or I can't speak to your emotions. I can only relate my own to yours and try to have empathy for that. But that's why I would do things like that. I would eat less and less every day because I just didn't think I was a useless eater. Why should I eat anything? I'm not doing anything. Or I would just go catatonic for days and not really feel anything, or I just shut myself off. So all I would have was my own misery to myself. And on the outside, I'd just be a blank slate to everyone else. I'd look just like
NPC,
blank face. Yeah,
you just go
be like, hello, and people talking to me like, hello, what do you want? Just try to get them away from me as quick as possible, or even just be like, leave me alone, because I just wanted to be alone in my misery. And really, it was just a way for me to punish myself, so afterwards I would feel like I finally did something good, because I hated myself so much that I thought hurting me like that was a good thing. And it's really just,
damn,
it really just clogged up my brain so hard, and I just had to unplug those dams, let the flow of thought keep going, try to think about why I'm feeling like that. What's the root? Because it's all downstream of something else. And for me, it was just guilt, really, about how I had treated people. I was a real prick. I was really angry. And, when I was younger, I would have outbursts. And one thing I remember vividly, I was 10 years old and my brother was 5, and I just failed in a game level or something. I don't know. And I had called him over, and I had slapped his arm over and over so hard to where he cried. And I still think about that sometimes, and other stuff like that. And I thought he hated me for so long, but he he forgave me, and that really just, I didn't understand. So I dedicated like my life to him. I thought, he's so much better than me, I've got to do everything I can for him. And I put himself above me, to where I thought, I'm terrible and he's great. And that's where it all stemmed from. I didn't love myself. I was so tied up in that guilt of my youth that I couldn't do anything else. I was still thinking about it a decade later. And eventually I learned to live, learn to move on, learn to
forgive yourself,
love myself. Yeah, and I did. It still hurts thinking about that. It really does. But I know that he loves me, and I love him. And so do my family and my friends. And it's okay to move on. It took a long time. I didn't have a counselor or anything, I just had to solve this with me, and I'd rant to my brother sometimes. But you've got people around you that care about you, man. Me, your mom, I'm sure people at your school, and we want to see you get through this. I worry about you sometimes. You talk about how you fast for 2 days and then you just go silent for 2 weeks, and I'm like, is he all right? I mean, I don't want to be intrusive, but I'll send him a message and be like, hi, how are you?
No, you're not the only one, man.
I just want to make sure he's okay.
I mean, you're not the only one. Shoot. Like, my family does the same thing, too, whenever... Like, even when I'm just really focused on work. But I know it's all have to do with, like, a balance that I'm trying to figure out. And that's why I feel like been taking these personal audits, really trying to figure out what's really important to me, what's essential, and what or who or however, whatever I'm doing, is it worth keeping my life? And I know this guilt or whatever, these feelings are not worth harboring over, because like I feel in a sense, no matter how technical or how good I would try to become in terms of like my career, unless I solve this shit, then to borrow a word from 4chan, I will be stuck in the wage cut cycle where I would do things I don't give a shit about for things I don't really care about to impress people that don't really care about me. And I know that if I don't get out of this like wage cut cycle of being so dependent on others and trying to be more self-reliant, but in the sense of not through discipline. Like I think that was the biggest thing. I thought I had to like be a military instructor to myself like Jocko Willix, but I'm starting to understand more and more that it's not through that, but it's just through really being confident and sharing yourself so much that it's not discipline that you're working through. It's just motivation, or you just do it because it's not for other people. It's not to give back to the people. Not in the sense of give back, but it's not even so much of you doing to repay a debt or to just do it for others. You're doing it for yourself because you want it for yourself, or you just want it to happen. So
being a little selfish, yeah.
Yeah. So in that sense, like you said earlier, just being a little bit more selfish, I feel like even if I try to get technical, it won't mean much, because the person who likes himself and really cares about the stuff he does, or is so honest about what he or she loves about his line of work or his life, will outperform me miles ahead of whatever I can even dream of, just because they are assured in who they are. And I'll only try to play catch up because I'm comparing myself to them instead of what I can do. And because of that, I just would feel, it makes me feel less valuable, because I'm not competing for me. I'm competing against others. Like, you're not running against your past time. You're racing, and that's not how I want to. Look, I don't want to be in the rat race.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this. And I'm glad that I'm figuring this out now. Like, here's one thing I'll give myself credit for before we move on. I'm giving myself credit for the fact that I'm thinking about this shit with you right now, and I'm only 20 years old, where I know I've been talking to other people who haven't even gotten this shit figured out, and they're
they're in their 40s, yeah.
Like in their 40s or 50s. Some people are almost like 70 are lying on their deathbed.
And it's so much harder at that age, because it's so much harder to change. You know? Because you're so much more stuck in your ways. While we're so young, we're still able to mold the clay of ourselves a lot easier, you know? Mm-hmm. Easier as it's really fucking hard, but it's easier than if you're 80 and you're like, I want to be more adventurous.
Yeah, like the kiln's already been like fired. You're already at this point like ready to go.